Welcome to Breezin with Bierman, the podcast, a Princetonian Now media production. As always, our job is to inform, educate, and entertain you, my people. You can find Breezin with Bierman, the podcast, on New Pod City, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I'm going to keep going. Podbeam, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on the Princetonian Now media group or Breezin with Bierman. So check us out. Today's guest, she's right now in the USA and abroad, and both virtually and in person. She offers customized, innovative training, facilitation, and coaching to people from over 70 nationalities. She's a bilingual, I'll say diversity integration specialist. She can give a different name. With programs designed with over 15 years of experience, she's lived and worked in several countries and designed programs for the corporate, nonprofit, academic, and community arenas to meet company-wide team and individual needs with an engaging style like I can attest to, which includes variety, active participation, and what I appreciate a lot, a certain degree of levity when appropriate. Please welcome Maria Medrano Armington. What's going on?
Hello.
Long time. It's been about 2-3 years.
Yes, that's right. Well, it's nice to see you again.
Thank you. I've been told to talk a little quieter, and I will. Thank God I have a producer. Let's get on. Again, for those who don't know, you talk about cultures, diversity, and inclusion. That's the current trend, is to call your field diversity and inclusion and belonging. What does that mean?
Yes, well, we started talking about a diversity years ago, and then we spoke about inclusion, so bringing everybody on board. Now, inclusion meant at the time to just hire people who were diverse and diverse from different perspectives, different points of view. So you are talking about level of ability and or challenging physically. We are talking about gender and sexual orientation and age. So a whole range of diverse areas, let's say. And now we also add equity. And so it's normally talked about as DEI. And now there's a conversation about belonging. And belonging is more for the employee to feel comfortable in the workplace. In my view, it's not only how comfortable they feel, but whether their contribution is welcomed and applicable or applied more than applicable. And so it comes from both ends, from a company or organization and also the new employee. So I believe that it's not enough to bring somebody, to hire somebody who's diverse, but to integrate them. So their contribution becomes part of the synergy among the participants, whether it's a nonprofit or the leadership, in other words, in the nonprofit or the corporate environment. But to feel they are an integral part and they're listened to, and that their piece counts, basically.
But so many terms and everything. What's the difference between inclusion and belonging? And I mean, and how do you make sure someone feels belong?
Inclusion, yes, inclusion is bringing them to the table. So have one more chair and have that diversity represented. And belonging is on the individual to feel that they are a good fit. Mm-hmm. And yes, go ahead.
No, but what do you say to HR directors, and why do they bring you in? I understand it's important. You want things to work out. It takes a long time to hire people, even in nonprofits or for-profits. I mean, you might have to look at 100 applications. You interview 10 people, you get one. You want to make sure it works out. Why are you brought in? What do companies see they have a problem? Are they told they have a problem? What's the process?
Not everybody is aware there is a problem. So several people within any organization or a corporation will think that hiring diversity is enough. But if nothing else changes, if the process is not changed somehow to incorporate that diversity, then whether you have a robot or a cushion on a chair, even if it's at the table, it won't make a difference. So there is a need to open everybody's mind and to learn to work with that diversity, to include and listen to that diverse voice, and learn to work together efficiently, effectively, and basically having a good result. And that process is where I come in. It's not only at times I train individuals who are coming from abroad to basically adapt and adjust to a corporate, a more national or more regional corporate culture. Eh, and they know in coming to the US what American corporate culture is. However, it's not two-way oftentimes. And so on this side, on the American side, there may be a, a transition time that is harder because everybody who's abroad pretty much knows what to expect from the American workplace, but the Americans may not be so familiar with diverse thinking styles, listening styles, communication. Um, and so that's important because there needs to be a synergy, a coming together, a process that may take some time because change is not easy.
Yeah,
And nobody likes change, they say, right?
that's what they say. Yeah.
So,
Oh, I have a
yes.
question too.
So
I
at
know
times,
we have a variety of American business cultures, but can you tell me some basic tenements of American business culture that you found that are pretty much true? I'll find one. Time is money. We're really into time, right?
and so sometimes there's a time factor in the way of, well, we work from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. And in other cultures, they stretch the day so that there is a break at noon, at lunchtime, basically, or at 1 or at 1:30. And so when they come back, they stay at the office at work until 8 or 9 p.m. So that is a big difference because what may be compacted over here is stretched over a number of hours abroad. And so so it may be perceived by some of our compatriots here, fellow Americans, that they don't work as hard. And that may not be the case at all.
Wow.
And so they work long hours. So the productivity may be the same. It's just over with a different schedule, let's say, during the day.
Are we seen as more abrupt? I've noticed when I was in Brazil or other countries, they want to get to know the person first. I
Yes,
tend to be
they
like, let's get down to business. That's why we're here. And you can really lose people that way, can't you?
Yes, definitely, because it's a question of trust. Over time, when when a relationship is built, then they can trust the international, let's say, the American, coming to do business with them. And so, without that relationship, without that trust, things may not fare well, and the business deal may not come to fruition.
Right,
And
right.
so when you have other international cultures who are more aware of that foreign culture, then when an American company and let's say a company from Europe are competing for to sell a certain product to a culture where relationship is oriented is important, then the American firm may be at a loss
Can I
because of
incorporate?
that rush.
Yeah. Can I incorporate? What about Me Too? I mean, what with the American Me Too movement and how other cultures see it? Any comment on that? What's going on with that?
Yes. Well, basically, when there's a movement in the US, like the Me Too movement, it goes abroad, it travels around the world. And so an initiative here may have global impact.
Wow.
And the other thing is that mansplaining is a major factor. And it has to do with that incorporating more gender diversity. If they have a seat at the table, but they cannot express their thoughts without others listening or without interruptions, basically that means they are not being valued. And then if you are not valued, why would you stay in a certain company? So that change is slow in coming.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter what level of leadership it may be, but the higher the level, the more chance there is of finding mansplaining.
I find that fast. I just the cultures and that, and you probably see
It's
it all
confronting.
holistically, and you see it all and all again. One question I have is, besides having taken your knowledge and trying to maybe change the ship's direction of a company, or they let them see problems they don't see, you have to deal with HR directors, HR people. Is that difficult? I mean, some must see you as the enemy, right? It's territorial, isn't it?
Not at all. In my
Really?
experience, working with HR directors has been a blessing because they know what's going on and who's who, so they may help me customize the training, the coaching, and so because they are familiar with the situation. So it's not one size fits all, but it's customized to the needs and the requirements of the company. Yeah, and HR is familiar with that. They know who from among the leadership is harder to work with. And so when I give training at different levels, I customize that training. And so, and the training itself will touch upon areas that are more challenging to an individual, to a team, to a group, whatever it is. So it's the best information I can have, that of the HR directors.
Right. Real information is important when you work with things.
Yes.
What about you personally? How do you learn to? I guess do you do it instinctively when you meet someone? How do you learn to get for you to establish trust or some kind of relationship where communication is directed, they're listening, and of course you're listening? What techniques do you use? What common sense advice can you give us, the layman?
Uh-huh. Well, basically, generally, I come because of referrals. And so somebody who is trusted by the HR director or the CEO or the COO gives my name and I come on board.
Mhm.
And so when I do, uh, I always talk with the HR director to know what the needs are, what the expectations are. And so there's a common ground of information that comes before that one first meeting. And and so when we talk about different strategies and what has worked in the company, what has not worked, and what the new element is, or what the practice that has been unsuccessful has been. So it's a very practical. It's talking about basic strategies and how long the program may be. So it's not a coming to them as a total stranger.
That's
I come and somebody has recommended me, and they may have shared what work I did with them, and so it's different. I'm not a stranger.
In our remaining time, please share with us an anecdote, something interesting, something funny, or maybe not funny from your work or success story
Okay.
if you would.
Okay. So there was an American engineer going to a Latin territory, and that was a Puerto Rico. And so what was happening, this gentleman was going to manage a certain plant. And what happened was that employees were used to getting to work late. They would stay long hours, but when you're talking about manufacturing, you need to have everybody present at the same time. And so at first he talked about it with the HR director, and nothing happened. They tried to implement different things. And so the out of the box, sorry about that, the out of the box strategy, and I like creating strategies out of the box because I've seen that they are the most effective. Um, what um, what the strategy was to offer breakfast, free breakfast every day
That's smart.
from 7 to 7:30, and whoever was not present then could not have and breakfast was a big deal because of what they served.
Okay,
So
we're
that's
talking to Maria. We're talking to Maria Armington. Again, you can contact her. Tell me if I get this right at integration.roi@gmail.com, and we'll go over that at the end of the show and
sure.
stuff.
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to go to voices from the crowd. I asked people in my hometown of Princeton, where this broadcast is coming from, questions. Again, this is, you're going to have to do some improv out of the box. Maybe you can't answer the
Sure.
questions, but I'm going to throw it at you. This comes from an immigrant from Princeton. You must have an immigrant eye, Maria. Your take on America's view of their exceptionalism in contrast to their profound ignorance of other countries and myopic search for status and money. Well, that's a pretty heavy one I just threw at you. I can say it again.
Yes. And so basically, there is a learning process that has to happen because not every culture is the same around the world, even among group-oriented cultures, more relationship-oriented cultures. So you need to know who you are dealing with and what their background is. And so some people have in the different industries have come to the US before to do a master's, an MBA, or a PhD, whatever the specific training may have been. And so it's important to make people aware from a positive perspective what contributions those different cultures may bring. And the more I know about the newcomer, the better it is, because I will prepare the locals to welcome and to make use of those values the most they can. So there will be elements that don't fit together easily, and others that will be more challenging. And so informing the American leadership about those and what the value is, what they're bringing to the table very clearly, apart from a very technical knowledge, that is important, because I will tell them about different thinking styles, about what they consider rambling is not rambling. It's a more holistic perspective. So I will prepare them to welcome the newcomer, knowing what their value, apart from the technical knowledge, is. And so I need to explain what is different about that one culture, how the work culture in that one country where the person is coming from is like, and how to best, what the triggers are, and what may be motivators. So they know, and they know how to work better with them. And the international, same thing. But they may be much more familiar because of regional meetings or international meetings, or um, a certain conference where they have met their colleagues from the US. So there's a level of information that is needed.
Final
And
question from the crowd, though, and then we'll go
yes,
through, and we want to get all your information. So everyone can share your expertise and hopefully hire you. This comes from an engineer, a male engineer, about STEM, women in science. He goes,
yes.
in my opinion, a lot of engineers, and I'm one of them, are more interested in things than people. I think women are more interested in, generally speaking, than in people than things. That is why you find more men in the sciences. I don't know if you have an answer to that, but extrapolate.
I would say tradition, history, and so many Ivy League schools are trying to open in and make the environment more welcoming to women and minorities. So we are talking about different minorities. And traditionally, engineering has been a male field, and the sciences in general. And so if you are talking about startups, for instance, there's not so much emphasis on a male. It's skill more than anything. And so changes are coming very slowly. And I wish it were faster paced, a much faster pace, but that's not happening. So, but we are changing as a society. And I have had instances where I had to train female biracial engineers, female, going to countries where manufacturing is purely male. And
Difficult.
so yes, but we have been we created strategies. Some may become funny at the same time, but they have worked, and that is beautiful. So being a young female engineer going to an all male plant is quite a challenge, and it was successful. So it's a process, but it's coming and it's underway. And colleges are aware of that, and they are changing their recruitment, promoting minorities, among them women.
I want to thank you,
So you
Maria.
will see more change.
I want to thank you,
Sure.
though. This has been, I could go on. I love the culture. I like to learn more techniques and things you've done out of the box thinking. Hopefully have you back. Please share with the audience, though, how they can reach you, website, phone numbers. I think you should come to my
They,
house.
I've been at your house already.
That's right.
But yes. So LinkedIn is an easy way. Is a practical way because they become a contact, and so we can go from there. My website is right now under construction, so they will see something pretty soon. But LinkedIn is one. Maria M. Armington, no, Maria M. Armington at gmail.com is another way. And that's for emails. So I'm available. I love creating, especially things that are out of the box, and helping people think outside the box, because the box has not helped anybody. So that would be a way to contact me.
One, can you share with us one more out of the box thing that worked for you in your experience to share with the
Okay.
audience?
So basically, and I'm thinking about this one engineer going to a very male country to be the plant manager, and she was single at the time, so I told her that in that culture, most probably the male employees were going to invite her to go out. And so she needed to protect herself in that respect because it's not true.
Biology is very strong.
That's right. And so I said to her that she needed to make up a fiance in the U.S.
Smart.
Basically, if she had a cousin or a good friend who was in the forces, even better, in the police. So, and to have that male be in a uniform and take a picture with him, and that would become her fiance, and to put that picture on her desk. And so everybody would know that she was engaged. And so and we laughed, but it worked. And so I said to her, if you are at some point interested in anybody, you break the engagement. And so we laughed a lot, but it did help.
Especially a policeman with a gun. Well,
Yes.
Maria, come to dinner again. I'm going to tell my wife. My wife, those who don't know, is from another country too, and now she lives in Princeton. She called Princeton a sinister Anglican town one time, but that's another story. So anyway, yes, we'll have you come to dinner. But again, Maria Medrano Armington, check her out. Her email again, and I'm going to say it, is integration.roi@gmail.com. Loved having you on. We'll share this with you. We'll be in touch. And this has been Breezin with Bierman, a Princetonian Now media company. Thank you very much.